In this spookerific review, we're going to be having a look and continuing our looks at the Playmates Toys Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Monsters, and Mutants, as we have a look today at Frankendon. To give you some idea how tall Frankendon is, we'll take this terrifying tape measure. Okay, it's not so terrifying. And let's measure how tall he is. He stands a little over 5 inches tall. If you technically count the little bolt on top of his head, he's just a little over 5 inches. By the way, as well, we can do some size comparisons with him and a regular Donatello. We'll just move his staff out of the way. He's really not that much taller than regular Don, even though the fact that he's got these little lifts in his shoes, exactly like Frankenstein originally was. I think that's so cool. So he's a little bit taller than a regular Nickelodeon turtle. He comes with one accessory, kind of this very cool kind of lab created, just looks like a bunch of things thrown together, a sort of staff. On the end, it looks like it could be almost be like an electrical conductor, almost as if something that would have brought Frankendon here to life. It doesn't have a lot of paint. In fact, it has no paint, but it does have some cool little details to it, like a little dial there. And of course, kind of looking like it would be something that could summon electricity. And there's the bottom of it. Now, there is a place that you can store it on him. Above and beyond, of course, his hand. His hand, it'll fit into his hand, but you kind of have to pry his monster-like hands out of the way. But it does fit into his hand. Or what you can also do, too, is you can flip the figure around. And amongst all these really cool little electrical, I don't know, like little cathode ray tubes sort of thing, there's a little slot here where you can take the staff and slot that into place. Which actually works really cool too, because it kind of looks like it's part of his makeup. You know, like this gave him the electricity, and it continues to drive him forward. What a fun looking turtle. I thought that the other two might have been my favorite, the Raph and of course the Leo, but I don't know, kind of like how I really like Donatello in general, this might be my all-time favorite. I really like also Frankenstein, so it kind of goes hand in hand. Yes, for the rest of this review, we're going to call him Frankenstein as opposed to Frankenstein's monster. What, again, a fantastic looking representation of Frankenstein here as Donatello. Right down to the little stitches above his forehead. Of course, he's got a squared off head, but you can see there's some stitches there around the mouth area. I like the expression on his face too, with that almost lifeless sort of mouth expression on his face. But really digging the bolt that they've got in the top. There had to be some place where they would have to put a bolt on Donatello. They opted to put it on the top there, and I think it works quite well. The stitch work carries all the way back to his bandana. And again, he's just a Mod Podge sort of bunch of different things thrown together, exactly like Frankenstein would be. I love the crack that he's got in his shell. Actually, a couple of different cracks there. He's even got a plate that's been bolted into, I guess, an area of his shell that needed to be repaired. He's got tons and tons of these little stitches and you know, staples and stuff like that running through his arms, which is really cool. I'm loving this. Of course, he's got some additional things added to him as well. Again, it just kind of looks like, you know, Dr. Frankenstein would have just thrown this guy together. Even like his belt, it looks like it's made up of different components all thrown together. But especially one thing I quite like, and my all-time favorite thing about Donatello here, not only does he have the lifts in his shoes, like the original Frankenstein had, but they went as far as to make it look like the one shoe is worn away and ripped away, and he's got his little toe sticking out, little Donnie toe. I quite like that. I suppose he could use a little paint just to kind of bring out some of those details, but really, none of the turtles really have that, so that's perfectly fine for me. I also quite like the fact he's got the one kind of grabbing claw hand as his default hand. The one hand only really needs to hold the staff, so he doesn't really necessarily need to have both hands be a gripping hand. So I'm perfectly fine with the fact that he's kind of got this giant monster hand as an extended sort of reaching out for his prey sort of thing. Poseability on this guy, let's run through that together. His head rotates all the way around, as well as you've got that slight hinge up and down. Universal joints on the arms, so not only do the arms hinge outward, but they also rotate all the way around. He's got a bend in the elbow. It is there. It's right there. It's right there. And you can also rotate the arm. And nothing in the hand. You can't rotate the hands. Let's just kind of straighten everything up. His legs go forward and back. They also go out. He does have also a bend at the knee. And he doesn't have anything in the boots. Not that I would expect him to have anything in the boots. He doesn't have any foot articulation, really only just in the knees. Instead, though, what you do get is a really cool, again, sculpt on the lower boot portion. And they've gone as far as well as to peg hole the undersides of his feet. I think much like the Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Donatello might be my favorite. Now granted, we haven't looked at Michelangelo yet, so we'll have to kind of wait and decide upon that at the end of Michelangelo's review. But in the meantime, digging the way that these mutants, the Monster and Mutants turtles have turned out. So far, really impressed with how they turned out. They kind of really remind me again of how the turtles were back in the day when I was growing up. Again, these are perfect videos for us doing during the month of Spot-tober, which of course will continue till the rest of the month, where we will look at more spooky items. Again, stay tuned. We're still going to have a look at Michelangelo, or should I say Werewolf Mikey. His review will happen right after this video here. Speaking of videos, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe to this channel, don't let darkness fall across your village. Hit that little subscribe button down below. You won't miss a beat when it comes to future videos. More spooktacular videos coming to you this month of Spot-tober, so stay tuned for those. As always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.